Hi there guys, today I'm going to talk to you about 5 tips that will improve your modeling skills in Blender. Okay, so let's get to it. The first tip, and this is a very important one, is always use backups. I can't repeat this enough. So when you're modeling something complex like this guitar, you don't want to start and model it and then along the way you're going to pick up problems. So that's what I did here. I usually have 3 folders here. I've got one that's with my final in here, and you can see, and then I've got a backup where I've got different versions, and then just go here to the backup, disable it in render, and then also disable it in the viewport. And then as you make progress with your guitar, save it and put it in your backup folder so it won't render there for everything, especially these complicated parts. And then I've got another folder that's got the reference in here for my guitar. So I usually work with these 3 folders. So there's a backup folder, a reference folder, and then the final version of the model. So I can't stress this enough. Always back up if you make significant progress on something. Before you go on, or if you want to experiment like with the sound or hole, which is quite something complicated, back this up first and put it in your backup folder. So that's my first tip. Back up everything. My second tip, if you can get away with it, stay away from UV spheres. Why do I say that? We just tab into edit mode. If you look at a UV sphere, the topology is very bad. If you look up here, we've got this massive pole, and then we've got lots of triangles, and this just screams very bad topology. If I put this under subdivision surface control 2, you can see it doesn't look, it's got this ugly pinching going here. So what do you do instead? Instead of using a UV sphere, we could just go to our good old cube. That's why it's there as a default always. So just take your cube, I'm just going to GX, move it out of the way, and then add a subdivision, control 2, and then shade smooth, and then you'll see it's also now it's also a sphere, but it's just better quality. If I tab into, if I apply it, let me just apply the subdivision now, apply it, and if I tab into edit mode, you can see it's a sphere, but everything is perfect quads, and it's much better to work with that than working with a sphere. So I try and stay away from it as much as possible. If you see these jagged lines here, don't worry. All we do is we just subdivide it again, and now you can see it looks much better than the sphere. Especially for characters. For eyes and things like that, I tend to use spheres. They just work better for eyes. But for characters, character heads and things like that, I usually work with this second method because you can manipulate it much better. Tip number 3 is just a hack for adding edge loops. I've got this subdivided cube here. So what I can do is I can add an edge loop to the top here and go through all the motions, but there's an easier way. All I do is Control R, add a loop cut with it selected, Control B, and then I just bevel it like that, and then one in the middle here, Control R, Control B, and then for the last one, Control R, Control B. So that's our best way to add edge loops, and that's much quicker and much better than to add it manually. This is a tip I use all the time. It really speeds up your workflow. So that's tip number 3. Tip number 4, I've got this little Homer guy here, and if I look at his hands, I'm not so happy with the way his hands are. They look a bit too puffy, and if I go in here to edit mode, I can see the vertices they're not really stretched. They look a bit messy, for lack of a better term. So what I can do is I can select everything in vertex select mode and right click and say smooth vertices, and it's just going to make it a bit neater. And if I do it again, it's going to continue to do that, but I suggest only do it once, and be careful of this one, guys. You don't want to overdo it, and then now it already looks a bit nicer. And then even if there's certain sections of your model that bothers you, say for example, just here, I can just select these verts here, and then maybe these ones, and then just right click smooth vertices, and it'll only smooth those ones. And then you can sort of, what this does is it basically irons out your vertices, because we had this ugly, the flow wasn't nicely spaced. So it basically just spaces out your vertices and makes it look much nicer. So, and as you can see, the result here is much nicer. So that's tip number 4, is use your smooth vertices tool, and that's easy to find. It's just right click when you've got your vertices and number 1 up here, vertices selected, and then just right click and then you go for it. Tip number 5, one of the most important things about modeling is that you should always have your normals facing outside, and it can be a pain to check it, so you have to go up here, go here and check face orientation. But what you can do is just go up here to this menu here with the overlays, right click face orientation and say add to quick favorites, and then if you press Q, you can see it pops up, and then you just say face orientation, and there we can already see our eyes are wrong there, and then we just pop into the eyes, select all, Alt N, recalculate outside, and now the eyes are fixed. So that's a very nice way to recalculate your normals. What I also usually do, same menu where it says wireframe, I like to right click that as well, and then just say with the same setting, add to quick favorites. Now I've got Q, and then I press Q, then I can put on the wireframe as well, and then I can see the wireframe of my model. And that's also very handy if you do modeling, to see what your quads look like. So these two are very handy. So all you do, just repeat it. You go to your viewport overlays, right click there, and then make sure that you've got it under quick favorites, and then to access your quick favorites you press Q. And that is it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, like and subscribe.